Everyone, Madison here with Health by Ratio. My team and we are a team that works completely online with our clients, and we're a team that consists of licensed physical therapists, functional health coaches, orthopedic movement specialists, as well as corrective exercise specialists, and all of us work together to harmoniously teach our clients how to move away from chronic pains and injuries and move back to full range of stable motion so that they can get toward their fitness and fitness and athletic goals, and or just general active lives and want to stay healthy in the process of doing so. So one of the things that we deal with consistently, along with a number of really just any full body issue, is knee sorenesses and recovering from knee injuries. And this actually got sparked because just this morning we had one of our runners, Angie, come back from a longer run and was feeling some lateral knee soreness and was talking to us about what she had done to troubleshoot the area. And she was spot on. She hit she got out her foam roller and her trigger point balls, and she basically mobilized all the areas that she felt like were around the sore spot to get it some slack, let it recover a little bit, and it responded really well. This is something that we teach our clients is we want them to have the tools themselves on how to get their body to move better, to feel better, to recover faster. And Angie did a great job with that today. And I figured that this would be a great topic to cover because knee sorenesses and knee pains are so prevalent. The reason for that is like the technique that I'm about, or a couple of spots that I'm about to show to hit to help us recover faster are going to help us on the mobility side and help us feel a little bit better, but not necessarily are going to solve the root cause of where the problem comes. Now, Angie knows what she needs to work on in and around her running. She has certain movement patterns that she tends to deviate toward when her body starts getting tired and it reverts to certain positions, and that will aggravate the knee. And we're doing a series of kind of functional corrective exercises. We've built a strength and conditioning program for her, as well as given her these mobility techniques to help complement this work. But we have patterns that she's doing along with cues that she's thinking of while she's running to help this knee stay stable. All that's built as a holistic program, but this is unique to each person. And so in general, though, the reason why the knees get so beat up, whether it's when we're walking, whether we're hiking, whether we're running, whether we're squatting down to pick up the kids or whatever it is because of things that are actually happening above and below the knee. So there's probably dysfunctions, some mobility issues that are happening at the ankles. Like a very common thing is missing dorsiflexion in that ankle. This was actually last week's topic. In the last video we talked about in increasing dorsiflexion because it tends to turn, if we're missing this range of motion where we pull the toes up toward the shins, it tends to make us want to turn our feet out, and it causes us to need to buckle, the knee buckles inside that big toe, and it's kind of like death by a thousand cuts. Every time we sit down, we stand up, we squat down to pick something up. Every time we're running, walking, hiking, whatever, this knee gets kind of tweaked over and over and over again. It gets angry at us. The other thing that happens also, though, is it stems from the hips themselves. And often where there's a variety of reasons why this happens, but often there's imbalances that are happening at the hips that are causing us to get into a certain pelvic tilt or maybe an asymmetry to one side versus the other. So we load to one leg a little bit more aggressively than the other. And that causes us to either shut off our glutes or one of the glute complexes on one side versus the other and become very much quad dominant in the process. And so we lose out on the big force production of our glutes, which makes us less efficient in the activities that we're doing and less powerful in the activities that we're doing. But it also decreases the stability of the knee. And so the knees will get a lot more wobbly and they get a lot more tension getting pulled up from the quads themselves. So we're actually going to talk about and show a couple of areas that we can use our handy dandy foam rollers that are probably maybe sitting in the corner collecting some cobwebs right now. We can bust this thing out and we can release these areas around the quads to create some slack to the knee because they've been overcompensating for what's missing in the glutes. And this is exactly what Angie did today to help herself recover ASAP right after a run and mitigate that soreness that she was feeling. Luckily for her, that where she's at right now in comparison to where she was at a couple of months ago, she's able to push her runs a heck of a lot more, and it doesn't really aggravate the knee too much until she gets to the end of it. But still, when she does try to push it a little bit beyond what her body's used to and she reverts back to her old patterns a little bit and gets a little bit more quad dominant, she's able to jump into techniques like this and help these areas calm down so that this knee can bounce back ASAP. All right, so for this area, then there's probably gunk on these quads all up and down this area for those of us that have some knee soreness and knee injuries that we're recovering from, whether that's MCL, ACL, patella, maybe it's just general knee soreness, maybe it's meniscus, aka cartilage related, whatever. It's all kind of applicable where this quad is going to probably have a lot of gunk in it because it's been pulling on this knee and overcompensating from what's missing in the glutes. And so we can work this whole thing, but I'm going to isolate in this kind of this 6-inch area right above the kneecap itself. And we can explore really all heads of this quad. We can work on more the lateral side of it, not necessarily the IT band, the dreaded IT band that so many of us spend our time on, where we jump onto the side of this thing. This is a little bit too intense. Like and the IT band is really dense fascia, which is a super tough connective tissue. And the IT band doesn't manipulate very well. It just hurts like crazy. So a lot of times we think, oh, this hurts so bad, I need to work on it. Yeah, this is one of the exceptions where the IT band actually, if you create slack around the muscles like the quads that we're about to get into, the calves, the hamstrings, the glutes, like if you create slack from around the IT band, all of a sudden this IT band gets a little bit less taut and it calms down a bit. So that's not actually where we want to work. But we can work on the outside edge of the quad. We can also work on the very top edge of the quad, and we can work on the inner edge, which would be like the adductor region. So all three of these kind of 45 degrees to the outside, straight on top, 45 degrees to the inside, are potentials that we might need to work on. And if you got some good knee sorenesses, you probably have gunk in all three of these areas. You don't have to hit all of them on the same go around, but if you do, you're probably going to have some really good slack in and around that knee like crazy. So how we're going to do this, I'm going to start with the inside edge of my leg here. So I'm going to get my foam roller out here. I'm going to lay it about sideways to my body, maybe angled upward toward myself just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is basically lay down on my stomach here with my foot turned out to the side. So I want this foot pointed out to the side. That way I can get to this inner leg. Now, I can have my foot pointed dead sideways or angled down a little bit more. So if I rotate my foot downward a little, now I'm more on the corner of it. If I rotate my foot more sideways, now I'm more on the inside of the leg. Whatever feels like it needs the most work. So I'm trying to find that hurt so good spot that makes me go like, yeah, okay, that's a 7 out of 10 on the Richter scale. That needs some love. Okay, I got my spot. Now, a lot of us, when we do foam rolling, we'll either just roll up and down the area and not necessarily sit on any one spot to break it up and actually bust up the tissue and manipulate it, or we'll just sit on this thing and pray the pain goes away and just hang out here for minutes and hope it goes away. Either of those options are not so good. So, for what we want to do and what we teach in our program and what Angie was doing today is proprioceptive work. We want to incorporate contractions and relaxations and movements to the area so that we can pump blood flow to it and trick it into releasing a heck of a lot faster. So what I'm going to do just to give myself a little bit of a break is I'm going to rest my arms down and rest my head on the ground so that way I can have my whole body relaxed. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start taking some deep belly breaths in, some diaphragmatic breathing. When we breathe through our belly, that relaxes our nervous system. It calms down this body. It's going to make this tissue much more likely to calm down. So nice deep breaths. And it's probably still feeling like a 7 out of 10 right now. But then what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath in, fill up our lungs with as much oxygen as we can, and we're going to tighten our leg by straightening out the knee as much as we can, and that's going to engage the quad. Now, when I do this, I'm not going to push harder on the foam roller. As a matter of fact, I'm going to actually consciously ease up off this thing just a little bit. I'm going to make it a little less intense in that moment. So by me tightening the quad and by me releasing some pressure off the foam roller, it should feel more comfortable in that moment. That's what I'm going to hold for about 5 seconds. Then after 5 seconds, I'm going to take a nice long exhale out. I'm going to relax my leg, and then I'm going to push back my weight onto this foam roller. And then for about 10 to 15 seconds, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to scrub into the area like sideways over it. I can move up and down a little bit on it. I can bend and extend the knee. I'm going to just create movement to the area so that I get as much blood flow to it and kind of break up this gunked up tissue. And then I'll repeat that sequence again. So going through it with me. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. Tighten the area, knees up off the roller. Shouldn't feel as painful right now because the foam roller isn't pushing as deep into the area. 2, 1, exhale, and now I'm relaxing my leg. Now I'm pushing further onto this guy. Then I'm going to start moving around a little bit. I'm just rocking back and forth on it. I'm also going to slide the leg side to side, kind of scrub into the area sideways, do some cross fiber breaking down. I'm going to bend and extend my knee a little bit to create some extra blood flow to it. And now I'm going through it again. Nice deep breath in. Tighten the area up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Relax the leg. Push back onto this guy. And as I do so, start moving around, wiggling and worming, bending and extending the knee. And now for some people, like for me right now, this hot spot that I found, this already relaxed. Just in that second go around of this contract and relaxation, I feel like it went from a 7 out of 10 to right now it feels like a 2 out of 10. So it's released quite a bit. I still feel it a little bit, but it's very, very subtle. If that's the case for you, like if it shifted a little bit, even if it went down from just cut in half, like maybe it was a 7, 8 out of 10, and now it's like a 3, 4 out of 10. Cool. That's good enough. You've done your work. Now move on to the next spot. If it still is pretty tender, still pretty gnarly, keep going through that contract and relaxation sequence. Some gunk is a little bit more stubborn than others. So use that for the next several minutes if need be, and go through that breath sequence with your contractions, relaxations, movements, and you'll eventually get that thing to release and relax. Just like if we were getting a nice deep tissue sports massage and they were keying in on a knotted up piece of tissue in our body. Now, the next area that we can, or next areas that we can do are basically the same idea. We're just changing up the position of our leg. So now I can go in the same area. I can just move my foot so that it's pointed straight down toward the ground itself. And if I find some good hot spots somewhere around that kind of just 6 inches above that knee, I can explore around a little bit. Once I find my area, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to relax my torso. I'm going to go through my breathing sequences, nice deep belly breaths. I can push as I'm inhaling, I push my belly into the ground. Exhale, letting the belly come back in. Do that a few times to relax the body through the diaphragmatic breathing, and then I can get into my contract and relaxation sequences of deep breath, tighten my quad, and ease up off that foam roller for 5 seconds. Then exhale, relax the leg, push back onto it, roll around on it a little bit, scrub side to side onto it, move the leg up and down, just create movement to the area, and then go through that again. And then the final area that we can get to is now I'm going to shift my weight a little bit more to the outside of my hip here. And now my foot's rotated a little bit more to the other side. And again, I'm trying to hit the outside corner of my leg here. I'm not trying to get dead sideways on this thing. So I'm trying to get just in front of the IT band. And now I can kind of get myself into this position here. I can find that hot spot and then go through my breathing sequence with my breath. I can go through my deep breath in, tighten the area for 5 seconds, ease up off that roller, and then exhale, pushing onto the guy. I can roll back and forth on it. I can scrub the area from side to side. I can bend the knee and extend the knee back and forth and kind of work that tissue and get blood flow to it and go through that sequence as many times as I need for it to release and relax. So all that right now is creating all this slack around this tissue just above my knee. So this area that's overcompensated because of what's lacking in my glutes, mostly because of probably some stuff that's happening in my hips, maybe some sequencing issues that's happening around my walking or my running or how I'm sitting down or standing up or kneeling down to grab something or whatever it is. It also could be some tightnesses that are happening in the ankles, like we talked about in last week's video, and that could be causing us to have to lean forward too far and we're disengaging the glutes, et cetera, et cetera. So the quads are getting over dominant. So it pulls up on the knee. So we just created some slack. It should reduce this guy up. We can also complement this release work that we just did all around these quads with some good quad stretching. We can do what's called just like a standing quad stretch, like get your hand against the wall, something to balance on, and get your ankle up toward your butt, and then kind of squeeze the glute here and try to pull that knee straight back as best you can so that you're not necessarily kicking out to the side here. You're kicking kind of straight back and you'll open up that quad in a stretch. Or you can do what's called a couch stretch. And I'm not going to use my couch right now, but this is the variation of it. You would put your knee into, in theory, the corner edge of your couch or a chair or something along those lines. And with that, you put your shin vertically up against the cushion of your couch. Then we engage this glute and then slowly start moving upward so that we get this nice deep quad stretch. This is a phenomenal stretch to do. If you engage that glute, you'll also feel a stretch in your hip flexor at the same time. And that's a great compliment to do if you have that range of motion. It's more intense than the standing quad stretch, but if you have that range of motion, it's another great variation. And we can do that in conjunction with the little bit of work we just did with our roller and create a lot of great knee slack in the process. Now, there's other spots that we potentially are going to need to hit, but we can do those on other days, maybe around the calves and the Achilles. Again, that was what we covered in last week's video. And potentially it's some stuff that we need to do up at the hip so that the glutes are able to fire again. And then there's obviously a number of things that we can do on the actual activation side, the exercise side, to teach our bodies how to move correctly again so that the glutes are stabilizing and that these quads don't keep just overtaking. And so this foam rolling work isn't just helping us temporarily. This foam rolling work is actually creating some good mobility, and then we're training the body how to move correctly so that it can stay relaxed on an ongoing basis and keep this knee healthy and allow it to recover a little bit without getting re-aggravated by those death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing that we talked about at the beginning of the call. So if you guys are interested in potentially getting some one-on-one help for free, you want to have an understanding of like, hey, my knee or my back or my shoulder or my neck or whatever, or maybe a combination of things is aggravating me on a regular basis. And I'm doing these treatments, I'm doing these stretches, I'm doing these techniques, and I feel like it helps me for a little bit, but then I immediately start getting reverted back to my old sorenesses, and I don't know how to have these adjustments last, or it doesn't allow me to actually get back into the activities that I love. I might get adjusted, I might get a treatment, but that doesn't mean that I can roll around in the grass with my kids without feeling like I'm going to tweak my back in the process or aggravate my knee squatting down to grab them or whatever that case may be. And if that's the case, we offer 2 free mobility consultation calls for everybody. And the first call is set up as more of an informational gathering call. It's pretty quick, but you connect with my team and I, and we want to find out what your goals are, what your body has been through over the years, and download on just where you're at and where you want to be. And then the second call is over video. You and I connect over a video assessment. We run through a number of full body patterns and range of motion tests to see not only how your body's moving, but why it's doing what it's doing so that we can create a game plan on that call on what areas specifically, whole body, you need to be mobilizing and what's a sustainable schedule for you to do that in, as well as what exercise do you need to prioritize to teach this body how to move correctly again. So if you're interested in setting those guys up, we'll have a link to our calendar below this. And outside of that, guys, if you have any further topics that you would want us to cover in future weeks, feel free to write a comment in below, send us a message, and we'll be happy to incorporate those in our schedule. We'll talk to you guys soon.